Hey guys, Speed here with the replay analysis for the YouTube replay giveaway, and the winner was Manoyal. He is an Ancient 4 player, and he submitted a Troll Warlord safe lane replay, so that's what we're going to be going over. And right off the bat, I would say definitely solid starting items, no doubt. This is pretty standard, and looks like the lane you are against is an Ursa lane, so Troll is actually definitely considered a common counterpick to Ursa, as Ursa is quite good against a lot of melee heroes, and Troll's a kind of a nice mix where you can go in melee for CS, and therefore not struggle in CS, but also provide a large mischance that really destroys Ursa in lane. So I'm not exactly sure when you picked, but definitely a good matchup. Right there, you gotta be a little bit careful about tanking too many creeps. It's good to harass, but because you're against a tri-lane, something that is not very common right now, but that can be the case and ends up being the case here, is that it's good to harass supports, you know, and help your supports. Harass supports is very important. Something a lot of people, I think, struggle to do in the lane is recognize that they have to help their support zone as well. But if you're tanking two creeps for that long, it's definitely not worth it. And zoning out support is important, but it's typically more important to zone out the core, who will be worrying about CS. As you see, you guys definitely overcommit for this harass here and take too much. So, I like how you're using creep aggro. Obviously you gotta secure some of the CS, and feel free to use your W. You did early on, which is good. Especially for the range creeps, I'd recommend doing that for nearly every range creep. Looks like you even have a bounty hunter showing up now. So, this looks like it doesn't work out, so definitely what you need to do different here, and you guys as like a group, is something that I kind of talk about with a lot of other students that I've worked with, is the idea of like giving a small ping, or just an idea of when you should go. And for here, it's more self-explanatory because he doesn't know bounties here, and therefore the kill is a lot more likely. However, right here, you should have slowed him, right? Your chance to go was right there. So by waiting this extra second, almost to like let Venge get in position or something of the sort, or bounty, you miss your kill opportunity. Like, Venge even ends up scaring him off here, but pretty much he's out of position, right? His supports aren't showing, and this is something to keep in mind. If the supports ever leave, then and you gain a small advantage on your enemy laner, that's pretty much a call for you to go, almost every single time. So, if you guys went earlier and went on him in the wave, this would have been a pretty free kill, but you take way too long. And I would say a lot of that came down to you not using your W. It's alright, but now you're overcommitting for sure here, because you already used a lot of your regens, so you need to be careful about using a lot more. Oh boy. Alright. Yeah, and then that ends up happening because of it, so probably didn't have to, but you know, it did. Just as like a precedent to help you, if your supports are ever getting chased down by other supports, and especially the core, don't worry about it. Unless it's first blood and you feel like you can get there and get the kill quickly, pretty much don't rotate over, because getting denies and the CS is worth more gold the majority of the time. I think you buying a stick early is okay. However, I think this ring of protection is definitely unnecessary. So what you want to be getting in this lane as fast as possible are either your boots or your Aquila, which I'm sure you understand to some point, right? You have it queued up, but the ring of protection is fairly unnecessary, as they don't have some crazy lane to pressure you, and you already have like pretty nice ways to avoid taking physical damage. And you kind of bump into this problem where because you did buy your stick early, and now you just like spend a long time getting to your Aquila because of all these small item purchases, you're going to be out of mana. And Ursa can pressure you if you run out of mana, so you have to be very careful about this, like using too many Ws. It's good to use them for the occasional early CS, but definitely be a little bit more cautious about spamming them, because against Ursa, you just want to out CS him, and then if he goes aggressive, or you feel like you really have kill potential, then you can go on him, but forcing things and trying to constantly pressure him will just run you out of mana and give him a gap to go on you, because he does have 8 armor. Luckily Ursa did get a 9 armor, sorry, well maybe it's 8 at the start, but Ursa did get quite a big laning nerf, so at this point you're probably alright. But like here, yeah, that's an example where you want to have your W up so you can pressure him away from you. Ursa's definitely another example where you want early boots, right? Being able to disengage from him at proper times and stay on top of him while chasing him down will really maximize your mana efficiency. As for every slow, if you can get an extra 2 or 3 right clicks in, it'll probably allow you to use less slows, which is overall beneficial for you. And you do ship out the Aquila here, so that's good. You're definitely like have the right idea for items, but I would say you can clean it up a little bit more, maybe try to get your items a little bit faster. Okay, I'm a big fan of you getting raindrops here. I think it's good, but I definitely would have considered shipping out like a Clarity maybe. Only because of the fact that this Ursa is not necessarily constantly pressuring you. Here I would hit him, yeah. So I would say you definitely need to be a little bit more confident, especially in a matchup like this. I know some of this comes down to simply experience, right? Like knowing how far you can go. But Troll against the majority of melee heroes, if they go on top of you and you can get a spin off, then that's, for the duration of the mischance, you're going to want to go aggro. You definitely don't want to waste auto attacks, especially when you have Fervor. The more times you hit them, the more damage you're going to do, so definitely try to push your limits in general. Skip ahead a little bit here. So it looks like they're kind of setting up to go on you, so okay. So the only thing I would do different here is, in order to kind of set up the kills, in order to make the kill a little bit more clean and maybe bait them in a little bit harder, is you just play the lane normal. If I'm this Pudge and I see you moving like this, I'm immediately going to know you have a ward. Purely because of the fact that you're just moving around kind of back and forth, like, and then you just run into the trees weird like this. It's just not normal movement for the most part. Especially when you have such a big advantage on Ursa. You know, there's no way you would do that unless you know there's a Pudge there. So if you play the lane more normal and come from here, you can just protect your bounty hunter more easily. Obviously, I'm assuming you didn't know they had a sentry or saw him, but it just kind of is a matter of the fact. I'm glad that you are paying attention and setting up for kills, though. It's good to be ready at the least. So I don't think buying Wand on Troll is optimal. I think there's some games where you could justify it, and if you're really going to fight early, maybe. But for the most part, Troll's looking more to like weave in and out of early fights and maybe just pick up a kill or so, unless you're really far ahead. And otherwise, you're going to kind of need slots for a lot of the other small items you're going to buy. Here, I would say you guys could probably go aggro, honestly. As long as Vanish stuns. But it's okay to be safe. Oh boy, look at this Necro build. Some crazy stuff. But Okay, like, so here, yeah, I think it's definitely good that you shift over, only because you have such a big advantage, but, the only time you really want to play this is when your Venge Stun is up. Okay, this is a good turn. But, alright, that was nice. You're gonna end up dying, but that's okay. Pretty solid overall. And, see, now the issue is kind of like, you buy raindrops, you buy wand, and you're already out of slots, and it's pretty awkward just to come into this predicament, because you want to have all your items out, obviously. But now you just like have raindrops and you can't even have a slot for them. So I think it's good to buy stick, right? If it's a lane where you want stick, you buy stick, 100%. This applies to pretty much every hero. But when you come to the point where you're buying this many items, it becomes just not the best, because you end up having to keep items in your inventory, and I really like raindrops on Troll because you often want to spam spells, so the mana regen is really nice, and you fall victim to magical damage, so you know wand is good against that as well. But raindrops are cheaper, and they definitely give a lot more passive regen when you're jungling. So also something I would consider, just as like a side note that I think could really help you, is if you ever feel like you're crushing your lane and they end up not pressuring you anymore, and you feel like you have a support that's maybe a little bit behind, then consider just like jungling, giving them the lane, and this will amp your team's levels by quite a bit, by allowing a support to farm the lane. Not that that's necessarily what you need to do here, as they're playing very active, and you definitely don't have a support that needs farm. However, you know, Bounty Hunter is very level dependent, so that would be an example where, like, if your bounty's really far behind, like, alright, I'm gonna give you levels, and you come top, and I'll jungle. Alright, this rotation, I'm not a fan of at all, so I think rotating as a core is something that is really hard to do early on, right? Because you rotate here, and it seems like maybe you could pick up a kill, but in reality, this Tinker's nearly dead, right? Alright, he actually gets away. I don't know what the other team's doing. But even if you get these return kills, which you don't even end up getting, like, if you can TP in and you're for sure gonna immediately get some double kill, then maybe it's worth it. But the problem is, you TP in, you don't get much, and it immediately does a few things. It slows down your farm. Alright, you might end up killing him here. Let's see how much gold you get for this. 241, so pretty much nothing, right? That's like a creep wave and a half. And what ends up happening is you rotate away, and it might seem like, alright, I freed up my Tinker, I saved my Tinker, but really, it doesn't do that much. Only because you can't transition this into a tower. You only get 200 gold. And now you're in this odd spot where you can't stay mid, right? Because it's simply not the lane you want to farm. You can't lane against Kunkka. You could just easily get ganked and die to some bolt combo plus Pudge. So now you have to run back top, and you lose a lot of efficiency. Ursa gets a fair amount of damage on your tower, I think. Yeah, so like a little bit of damage on your tower, and he gets some space, right? This guy was really far behind. And as a troll, in order to snowball these games, I would say it's a lot easier for you to play your lane and then make rotations when you have more items. Oh boy. Alright, so looks like you've rotated again, and you had a very free lane. And once again you TP mid. This is just... I understand the idea of team play, but really, this just isn't worth it. Even if you get these kills, it's just not, in my opinion. Because you can come mid, and it's like okay to TP mid, but at the same time, Bounty could just get the levels solo. Like, if Kunkka ends up getting away by a little bit, maybe Bounty can step some XP, but you just lose a lot of efficiency. You only have 49 CS, and you know, I'm definitely not one to look at Dota and say, oh, you gotta have this amount of CS at this time and this amount at this time. But certainly coming out of a free farm lane, which your lane pretty much was, no doubt. You had some very weak tri lane against you, a favorable matchup in the Ursa. It's definitely good for Troll. And you're just not that farm. Like, we look at net worth, and you are on top, right? You're having a good game, but that's expected, right? In this situation, you should definitely be having a good game. So, It's good that you are, of course. However, you could have a lot more right now, and yeah, and pretty much if you play your lane and you let the kills come to you, your efficiency will go up by a very large margin. All these TP mids slow down your farm, and like you might see pro players TP mid and stuff like that. For instance, like Ame going mid as Terrorblade in some games or stuff like that. But often a lot of those ganks are team coordinated. There's a higher chance they'll get something out of it, and often it's to transition it into a tower, right? But in these situations, you're just TPing mid to save your Tinker. And that's really not your role in this game. Troll's a hero that needs to snowball in items in order to have impact. And something I would consider doing, this is to help everyone who's watching this. This will help you as well, but whenever you're a support or a safe laner, if your safe laner is a hero that wants to stay in the lane, not necessarily rotate, such as Troll. Sorry, I gotta replay the replay. It's very important that, okay, it looks like they actually dewarded this area, but that you place a ward here. I think this one's much better than this. Okay, so they actually ended up warding this. But, what I think is important is that if you have a safe laner who wants to play in the top lane, but you want to play in the bottom lane, then it's important that if you are leaving the lane as a support, or even if you're as a core, that you ward somewhere in this area to see TPs from the shrine. This one's obviously ideal because it gives you tower rotations as well. However, you do have to check it for dewards a lot of times, because this is just a very common ward spot. Did they see? Oh boy, okay. Yeah, just that idea of placing a ward here so that you can, so he can safely spread the map and continue to farm his lane without getting ganked, right? Because if they're going to TP in, then you want to know if they're coming, right? Oh boy. Alright. See a Volts. Okay, let's talk about what went wrong here. So you did know they were here. That's the first thing. Looks like maybe you guys want to make some sort of a play. Alright, so you're kind of... Alright, your first mistake is like, you know they're coming, right? And unless you're trying to bait, I don't know what you're trying to do, obviously. But, you should assume that they have some sort of vision, even if they don't. So they walk into you. This gank is even like really scuffed. This kill really hurts. Alright, pretty much you walking from the bottom side of the map, like bottom part, rather than coming from the top is just kind of a mistake. If your idea there was to farm the lane, then that's just a mistake. Because you should know they're there, and you should know that they're trying to kill you. So you definitely have to play a lot more safe, because the thing is, you've been going for kills, and you have like this killing spree going, obviously. So now, all the kills you got from rotating kind of just go back into the pockets versa, which really hurts, because this guy was far behind, and now he's almost level 8 already, and fairly close to a Blink Dagger. So, obviously I can't prove this in this game, but if you stayed top, and you prevented the Ursa from ever having a lane, and you don't feed him that kill there by playing a little bit more safe, this guy is still level 6, and nowhere near a Blink Dagger, and that very much impacts the game, because he's going to be able to have impact this game, simply because you guys don't have a lot of lockdown, and they do. You guys definitely have a very, in my opinion, kind of a weak team comp, only because you don't have much of an initiator, you don't have any sort of frontliner, and in order to counteract this, you simply have to have an absurd amount of farm. It's hard to make these recognitions early into the game, but if you look at the two team comps, you have to be in the understanding that unless my Razor has some absurd game, I'm going to have to be able to run in and create space for my Tinker to just spam missiles and stuff like that. So by making plays like this, you're potentially sacrificing your ability to carry late game, because there's a high chance they TP in, right? You don't see anyone, your bounty hunter's dead, so why wouldn't they make a play on you? And now Kunkka TP's in. I don't know if they kill you. You are pretty tanky. Alright, he misses. Alright. But by making these plays, you're sacrificing your ability to win the game. And going for kills and being active is important, but more so on other heroes. Like Troll, like, okay, this kill is okay, but once again, it doesn't give you that much. Like, I just want to put in perspective. Kills don't matter that much, right? Kills are good. And if it's just like I'm pushing the tower and someone rotates over and more supports are in position, those kills are great because they cost you pretty much nothing. However, you rotating mid here, a lane that Tinker can push out with his bots, contrary to top, where he could push out top, I suppose. Maybe he should have been doing that. That's probably on him. But once again, let's say you don't have a Tinker. It's the majority of games you don't have a Tinker, or your Tinker's not paying attention, which seems to be the case here. Then I'm just going to pause real quick. What ends up happening is top lane gets pushed in, and this is a cart wave. And in a dominating lane, a lane where... oh boy. A lane where you were crushing. Your tower's going to fall at 16 minutes, and this is not necessarily... this is something that's very common, the safe lane tower falling. But in a game like this where they have 0 tower hitter, and no way to pressure you out of top lane pretty much, as long as you have a fairly good map awareness... and this is just what ends up happening. Like, you really need to just play this game a lot more safe. And I think playing dangerous is a great way to learn, right? But there's specific heroes that are a lot better at playing dangerous than Troll, because Troll is just extremely weak early on against magical damage. You just have a very low HP pool, especially if you're going a Battle Fury build. Like, you're going a greedy build, and you're playing aggressive. It doesn't really line up, you know? You kind of have to choose what you're going to do. If you're going to fight, maybe then you go for some Shadowblade or Sanchin Yasha. But if you're going to go like Mask of Madness or Battle Fury, then you typically want to farm your next item or your BKB. Because I look at this game, and if I'm you, I have no interest in fighting up until the point I have like 2-3 items in reality. And it might be hard to do that. You'd be like, oh, my team might get run over, but I'll promise you, if you have a good laning stage, which you did, you came out on top, and you played it fairly well, and you continue to just pressure in the top lane and just have like some nice rotation of push the lane in, farm, if the tower's open, you see them rotating, you push the tower. If you just do the simple rotation through your jungle and have a ward down, which you can ship out for yourself, then you'll become a lot more farm. Because you guys are only 1k ahead, even though you have the top 3 cores in the game. And this is because their cores have been able to make a lot more plays. You guys do have a kind of a weak supported cast, but because you've tried to make so many plays, it allows them to make plays on you. Something I'm going to say is, for everyone who's in MMR, if you play the style currently in your bracket where you are relying purely on kills to snowball your farm, at some point it's not really going to work, okay? Like, if you're good enough in your bracket and you're constantly killing people and you continuously get better and are always above your bracket and you can win by rotating and just getting kills and dominating the map, then so be it. But for the majority of players, at some point, you getting kills, especially kills like this, where they're simply out of position and overreact and probably misplay it, because if he has Shroud TP, you're never going to kill him, but he just doesn't, and he has this really bad item build. Eventually, you going for kills is simply just going to slow down your farm. That's all it's going to do, especially as a hero like Troll, right? This is a Troll game. If you're a hero like maybe like DK or Ember, sorry, maybe DK wasn't the best example, but Ember or Quap, or any of the active heroes that can constantly stay on the map, Pugno, whatever it is, and pressure a tower, then this makes a lot more sense, because that's what your hero is going to do. You're going to make space for a safe laner. But when you're the safe lane Troll Warlord in a game where they have endless ways of killing you through magical damage early on, then you are not looking to fight. That is not your role in the game. Is not space maker. It is okay if you're in a really strong position and you're really highly leveled and you can contribute to a fight. You don't run immediately away, right? That's not what I'm proposing. However, you don't want to try to be the playmaker, for instance. And that's what it's kind of seemed like you've been trying to be this game. Like, you had a good start, and it almost felt like instead of pressing your good start to snowball, you pressed it to like almost recover the game for your teammates, which is typically not the play on a hero like Troll, because you're gonna end up dying. Like, you're 7-3, and these 3 deaths have been pretty bad, because when you're a high level, especially coming in a good laning stage, every death is very costly. Once again, you're just kind of chasing this guy down, and you'll probably end up getting him, I would imagine. Like, never mind. Also, what this does, okay, I don't know what this guy's doing, but like, but you kind of see what I'm saying. Like, this playstyle where people feed you kills and you bank on farming off of it is not gonna eventually work. If you're looking to really get to the highest of brackets, you can outplay people constantly, and you can learn map movements that allow you to continue winning through kills. However, once again, I just want to stress this because I think it's really important, especially for a safe lane player like this. You want to make your rotation smooth, and if you're gonna help, maybe you farm some camps, such as like you're farming these camps, you farm through with your Battle Fury, you knock this out, the lane's under your tower, you kill it, and your team's fighting right here. If you shift over and you help them, fine. Or let's say your team's getting Dole on the Shrine, and you just farm this wave, you push out the wave, and they're all low on the enemy team, and you shift over and you clean up the kills. That's really, really good for snowballing. But constantly looking for these kills, if they ever bait you, which they kind of don't, really, if they ever do end up baiting you, and you just feed a kill, you're not only going to feed them quite a large amount of gold, you're going to feed them a lot of XP, which will simply snowball their levels and give them more kill potential on you with spells. So I would definitely say you want to mix your farming patterns, your kill patterns in with farming patterns, so that you have efficiency. Okay, you did say that you disconnected. I'm going to spend this time to go over your message. So what you said is that in the match you took very bad fights at late game. So obviously we haven't gotten to that point yet, and it seems like for the most part that's kind of what you wanted me to pinpoint. So that's why I'm reading this now as we shift towards the late game. Also, you said that you wanted me to explain what pro players would have done if they're in my place, which you did poorly. I can't really focus on one particular aspect because I feel like I have to improve on everything, be it laning, team fighting, farming, etc. And this is obviously true, but pretty much for everyone, right? Everyone has some way or another to improve in whatever aspect of Dota. This is always going to be the case. So you kind of have to pick one and choose what you're going to look on improving. I would say that's the most efficient way. So typically what I recommend to people, if they're really struggling in their laning stage, then look to pick either stronger laners and refine your laning stage. This will help you play your mid game a lot easier. If you're coming out of the early game with more items, more levels, then your mid game and late game will be much more simpler. And overall, your game you'll slowly progress and become better at playing mid game if you have the basics down, right? You want to build from the ground up, and the laning stage obviously is the ground in Dota. So that's what I would recommend. If you really are confused on what you need to improve on, start from the bottom, which is the laning stage. And so yeah, if you really can't focus on what you need to learn on, then pick one. And this replay is fine. You did mention that you're sorry about submitting a replay that's not perfect, but I'm just happy to be doing this for you guys, and hopefully a lot of my tips help. But yeah, so it looks like a fight breaks out. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back real quick. And once again, you're running into this fight, and I'm a little bit surprised this works out. I mean, you definitely are pretty strong, so I'm going to quickly go back and see how this fight develops and see if it kind of lines up with my idea of like rotating to developing fights rather than initiating fights. Even if you aren't farming, you know. Okay, so it looks like your Razor is getting chased, and I suppose your team kind of makes the decision to fight here, which ends up working out. Okay. Overall, I still just don't know how I feel about this fight, right? It works out, but in reality, like, I don't know what their Grimstroke's doing. Was he dead or something? I'm not sure. But if they have better communication and spell usage, in reality, eventually these plays where you're running in alone with 1300 HP are probably going to get you killed. If you made the judgment this time and you were like, Bounty's going to cancel Dismember, that's fine if this was a calculated risk. And the fight was developed, so maybe they had spells on cooldown, and therefore your initiation is a lot safer. However, once again, making these plays is very dangerous. It's, in my opinion, low reward and very high risk. And as a safe lane player, I would say in order to become the best safe lane player you can, and one that rises in MMR, you want to be a reliable safe lane player, not necessarily one that makes plays and goes 15-1 but one that rather will consistently hit his item timings, rather than going in fight for fights. Like, once again, it's just, you're constantly trying to do stuff, and this is just way too much. Like, Troll Warlord is not strong at this point in the game. Like, if you man up on someone, sure, you're gonna win the man up battle, because that's what Troll does. But in a team setting where they're 5-manning, what you're doing right now is detrimental to the development of the game as a whole. And hopefully this main idea helps you, where you mix in your farming with your fighting, and maybe you rotate late to fights, or you let your team do the fighting early for you, because how you're playing right now it's just really hard to carry games, like purely carry games. And I don't mean 1v5. I think the idea of 1v5ing is pretty unrealistic for the majority of players, and it's just not a great way of learning, right? Dota's a team game, or thinking in general. So if I was you, I would look to maybe pinpoint a time in the game when the game starts, be like, alright, I need these items to properly fight and help my team snowball the game. I'd be like, alright, I'm against an Ursa in lane, I'm going to have a good laning stage, so I will hit my Shadow Blade and BKB timing, or whatever it is, Blink BKB, or Battle Fury, Yasha BKB, whatever it is, and begin to fight. But Troll Warlord, if you want to play how you're playing now, then I would recommend a hero like Ursa, or I would recommend a hero like maybe Ember Spirit. But yeah, once again, it's just, you see what's happening. I don't know if you're gonna end up dying. Okay, you do. So hopefully you see the pattern, because I think it's actually pretty clear. Sometimes when I'm doing these replays, it's a little bit unclear of what exactly is going wrong, and sometimes it's just a lot of farming inefficiencies. But in your situation, I think you're just way too kill hungry. Really, that's pretty much the majority of your problem. You don't have to make plays. You're gonna win this game late game for your team, right? If I look at this game, I'm like, okay, I dumpstered this Ursa in lane, and he's pretty much their carry, right? Kunkka, I guess, can be a carry, but he's not even doing that well, right? He's 3-8, so you're gonna win this game once you hit your BKB timing, because you're pretty much invincible. You are essentially invincible when you BKB. You could be like, oh, but they have Dismember, they have Grimstroke ult. It does not matter. It's about the fact that they're gonna, if they do commit these spells, they're probably gonna get cancelled, and they only last for long enough, and then you're gonna shred them right after. And BKB will, like, these guys are not clean enough to kite you with these spells. It's just not what's gonna happen. So if I was you, at least in this game, if you're gonna go this build, I would say finishing the Sanjin Yasha is probably not the best if you do want to fight. For instance, if you feel like you really need to fight for whatever reason, then just go Yasha into BKB. Sanjin Yasha is nice to have, but it's Kunkka. He's really struggling. Alright, you're gonna get the Kunkka kill. It's good, I believe. It's definitely a hard place to chase people. Alright, Kunkka God. Alright, this isn't even that good for him. He's literally stuck here. Unfortunate. It is hard to chase people there, no doubt. Fog comes into play a lot. But, yeah, sorry, back to the point. Sanjin Yasha over BKB is just, it really delays your timing when you can fight, and sometimes that's okay, right? It gives you nice HP and kill and chase potential. So if you can get away with it, go for it. And in a game like this, I would have been like, alright, if you're farming and you're like picking up an occasional kill when your team gets dove or whatever, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, it's good, because it's going to snowball your farm, and it will make you stronger when you eventually do decide to start just straight up fighting. But at this point, if you are just going to fight, then it's not great. So eventually you start farming. Looks like you're going to set up a fight again. This kill is just, I don't know. It says, do you really just kill this guy? Why is he not Ghost Shrine? Okay. But it's okay. Like, you get the kill, right? It actually only gives you 300 gold, so it's okay, but I'm at least glad that you didn't continue running down the lane into a potential death trap. You do have a ward, so maybe you could have pushed out the lane, simply because of that. Another thing I want to mention, I know I mentioned this earlier, but Ursa would not have these items if you guys play differently. And what ends up happening is if space makers try to make plays when they're behind, what typically ends up happening, not always, sometimes you have to make desperation plays to come back into the game as space makers. But as a hero like Ursa, if he has like no items, he's just gonna get kited and fall farther behind. But because he got pure space in the lane and like a tower and stuff like that, and kills on you, he's able to come back into the game. Like there's no way there should be, okay, yeah, 8 and 5. After the laning stage he had, and the fact that you guys have line swap, mischance, sure, maybe the reasoning would be more around the idea that that they have better heroes to fight early for the most part, but I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that you gave him space, especially in the laning stage. Okay, so I don't want to make this too much longer because I think it's best that I just make your points of improvement simple. And at this point, I think it's very, very clear what you did wrong this game. You guys are still ahead, even after all these fights where you lose. You're still ahead, and you could easily be like 13, 15k ahead if instead of you taking your laning stage and trying to make kills out of it, simply made more items and then hit item timings, right? Being active as a carry can be great in certain situations. If you're an Ursa and you have a blink dagger and you're getting a kill, making space all around the map and shutting down their carry, that's fine. But in a game like this, you have to recognize your threats, and I would be like, my threat is purely magic damage up until I BKB. I barely can fight. My team has no stuns, so it's not going to be safe for me to initiate until I BKB, right? My team needs me to get BKB to win this game. And you never hit this timing up until whenever. But it's too late because they're starting to come back into the game. And they're going to get items that kite you, right? Or they're going to buy Auxiliary and Kaya. But, you know, whatever it is. You don't want to delay such an important timing. And it might have been hard for you to recognize it. But you just need to look at games and be like, alright, I'm going to win this game for my team at this point. And communicating this to your team can help them. It can help with mentality as well. It can be like, alright guys, I really feel like I can't fight without BKB, so if you guys can create space until then, even if you're losing fights, I'll take some towers maybe in the side lanes if you guys create fights in the opposite side lane, and eventually I'll hit my timing and just win you guys the game. If you're confident like this, it will keep mentality up. And it's probably just true, you know, if you hit your timing and transition your dominant laning stage into kills, into farm and items, and once again, you're just going to end up dying here. Okay, and eventually it swings into their favor. So, I hope this helped a lot. Sorry for some of the interruptions, but I think a lot of these points should help you clean up your game. What I would recommend doing is something I recommend to everyone after they're watching the replays. Just watch any pros replay. I think Anna had a game in TI. I can't remember who they picked it against. I would have to think, but Anna played it at TI, and he had a very dominant performance. So I would definitely watch his replay, check out what he did, because I believe he ended up going Battle Fury. I'm not exactly sure when he bought it, if it was second or first item, but definitely go and check that out. Check out his movements. Because it's hard for me to go talk about exactly what the proper movements for safe lane players. I'm not exactly a safe lane player myself, but I could assure you, if I was a support player this game and I had a troll, I would be communicating to him that I don't expect him to fight until he hits his timings, because that's kind of the hero Troll Warlord is. You're not a hero that necessarily dominates the early game against magic heavy team comps. You're a hero that hits item timings and becomes this unstoppable force that no one can man up on. And creates then As a result, because no one can man up on you, you maybe tank some spells, you tank a Dismember in your BKB, and Tinker just shreds them from the backlines, right? You're going to create a lot of space. But up until that point, you're just a punching bag for all these heroes with so much magical damage. Okay, I think I'm going to end it there. I hope this was really helpful. Thank you for commenting in the section below. I'm glad there was a lot of feedback from you guys. A lot of people who want replays, and hopefully I give a good impression. I do these for Gamely. For anyone who wants, everyone on the site that is subscribed can submit a replay to Gamely, and I will review it completely for free. All you have to pay, obviously, is the subscription fee. I also do coaching, where I do a similar thing to students in private. If you're interested in that. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'm going to hopefully do this again, so if you were interested in getting a replay reviewed but didn't get it this time, definitely keep your eyes out in upcoming videos for another replay giveaway, because we'll most likely be doing this again in the upcoming future. Alright, thanks for watching.